Hi, happy Thursday. Hopefully you can see and hear me okay. Somebody give me a thumbs up in the comments just so that I know that everything is coming through and working all right. I'll just sort of give everybody a couple of minutes to find us, but I am going to be sewing up the Sunshine Crossbody by Bagstock Designs. This is one of my most favourite patterns. It's probably the bag that I've sewn the most over my time. So hopefully no mistakes, but I'm not promising. So Sophie's here, Susan's here, Pam's here, Sue's here. I'm not being as good as normal, Sue. I've not got water with me, but I have got a drink of pop. This afternoon I just felt like I needed pop. So I've made a few changes to the pattern sort of over the years that I've made it, so I'll kind of show you them and like kind of what I've done with them. And I'm thinking as well that I'm going to put hidden connectors in rather than putting the connectors into the side, but I haven't decided yet. We'll see how we go. Sue's saying any fluid is better than none. Yeah, I have just had a cup of tea as well. Sophie's saying can see and hear you. Great. So I shall move my keyboard out of the way and my mouse, and I shall change over onto the overhead camera. I shall turn the little banner off because we know what I'm making, and I'll take my name off because we all know what I'm called now. I just kind of leave that on for anybody who is joining us for the first time. So I'll run through the pattern pieces, how I have them. Like I say, I have changed this up a bit. The pattern calls for foam, and we know I don't really like foam. Oh, this is showing up really red, and it's very pink actually. I wonder if, is it my filters? That's a bit better. I didn't have my filter turned on. So I'm using pink vinyl and a cotton for the middle. Sue saying, for those that who missed last night's podcast, it's a definite must watch. I really, really, really enjoyed last night's podcast with Matt. It was fantastic. Yeah, bless him, he was lovely and so talented. So my accent pieces are, hopefully that's not too bright for you. If it's too bright, let me know, I can turn the filter back. Accent pieces are in vinyl, faux leather. My middle pieces are cotton, and they have been interfaced with a woven interfacing as per usual for me. But how I've changed this up, instead of putting foam onto the bag once all of these panels are constructed, I have put Decovil onto these pieces already, but out of the seam allowance. So it has meant that I've had to cut, extra pieces of sort of Decovil. I mean, because I've made this pattern so many times now, I've just cut these pattern pieces out extra because I use this pattern so much. But yeah, so literally out of the seam allowances on all of these exterior pieces. So this is on my accent pieces. You need 2A, 2B. So remember that you need to mirror them. Don't do what I've done in the past and end up with 4 pieces all cut exactly the same way. And then you need your centre back panel. I'm just going to move all of these out of the way because I know which one's which. Centre back panel, centre front bottom panel, and centre front top panel. And then we also need our pocket lining piece. as well, which again has been interfaced with some woven interfacing. So those are my exterior pieces. My lining pieces. So I have my connectors. Now my connectors are all cut in one piece. So I'm going to top stitch it and then cut it in half rather than cutting it into separate pieces, just to make it a little bit easier. I have a zipper tab. I also have my 2 lining pieces. And I've already installed my, I hope that's clear to see. I have such a nightmare with, yeah, let's leave that off. I've already installed the zipper pocket as per my video, which is in the description down below, because you'll have seen me install an accent zipper pocket so many times. But if you need a refresh, there is a video in my description down below. I am going to add in a slip pocket. So I have a piece that is, let me remind myself, because this was a while ago I cut this out, 8.5 inches wide by 11.5 inches deep. And I also have an extra piece cut out for an accent for along the top. This is basically just a little bit longer than the top of the slip pocket and 1 inch deep. I have marked along the center and put some zipper tape on either side. So hardware, we have, oh, there's my zips. Panicking then, like, where's my zips? So obviously for the lining zipper pocket, I needed a zip and a zip pull. I've got some continuous zip tape, probably way more than what I'll need, but definitely better to have too much than too little. I have 2 25mm D-rings and 2 zip pulls for my continuous zip. And I've already made my strap. Again, I've got a video in the description that shows 3 different ways to make straps. This is the accented version that I've made, 1 inch wide. So for that, I've needed an 1 inch wide strap adjuster and 2 inch swivel clasps. And the full instructions of how to make a strap like this one is in that video, which is linked in the description down below. So right, because I've already got this bit out, let's do the slip pocket first. Let's move all of my little labels out of the way. Let's not lose my zip tab, because you can bet your life that'll go on the floor and never be seen again. Sue saying love the fabric choice, as is Susan. Donna's saying watching while coughing and sneezing. Hope you're feeling better soon. And Donna's saying like the pocket fabric. Yeah, this is very bright. It's not very me. I don't normally go for pink and such like, but I thought, what the heck? So let's just turn my iron on. You've probably seen me do a pocket like this in other videos. I probably am going to make a video that is standalone, so I can just reference it, so that you don't have to watch me do a pocket exactly the same way each and every time I do a sew along, because I do tend to do my pockets exactly the same way each time, unless it's kind of integrated, yeah, you know what I mean, into the pattern, that it's done differently. So basically I've just drawn 2 lines an inch in from the long edge, because this is going to be folded up to the short edge, and I'm going to fold this edge into that line and simply press. And I want to give it a good press because I want this edge to be really nice and crisp. And I should just point out that I am sewing on a Jack H2 industrial machine. I have a size 19 needle in my machine because some of the seams when we get to the very top can be a little bit bulky, so especially if you're using vinyl. So I have gone with a 19 needle, and I am using a Tex, see if I can lift it off to show you. I'm using a Tex 35 thread, which was out of one of the bag makers boxes from Emma. So that is what I am using in my machine. So once that's done, I'm just going to give it a little overall press, and then we're going to add the accent on. So before I add the accent on, I do just like to base this edge in place. Basically just keeps it all together, makes sort of working with it a lot easier. And then I do like my accent, if I can, on this slip pocket to be a sort of good inch and a bit bigger on either side. And I'll show you why, because I find it makes lining it up a lot easier and getting it nice and even on both sides. So I'm just going to take the backing tape off. And line that up just below that line. And give it a good press down. And then I want to fold it over, and I want to get those 2 edges here. I'll come in a little bit closer for you. Get these 2 edges to match up, and then I know that it's going to be even on both sides. So I'm just going to top stitch along, and I'm basically just going to come along this inside here by coming in by about 1/8 of an inch, making sure that I keep a hold of my threads. My top stitching length is always 4.5, and my construction length is always 2.5. And just cut them threads back, and then I'll trim off the excess of this slip pocket. I like to have it overhanging by probably just by about 1 mil, like just a smidge, nothing too much. So I'm just going to line up this slip pocket with where I want it in my lining, and I'm probably going to come about 1 3/4 down, but I'm going to see how that's probably a bit too low, so about 1.5 inches. I'm going to line up that middle with that edge. I don't want the edge of this pocket really to come down below where the bottom is going to form. So I'm happy with that about there, and I'm just going to pop a couple of pins in just to keep it in place. And then I'm just going to sew that down, literally by coming all the way down along and up the other way. And I always backstitch at the top, like as I start and as I finish, just for sort of like extra reinforcement. And I quite often do a couple of back stitches in the corner, not quite exactly where I want to be there, so I'm just moving that with my wheel. And there is the slip pocket attached. So you can see that it sort of creates a much sort of squarer look, you know, then sort of sewing around, leaving a gap, turning it through and sort of like pushing them corners out, which doesn't always sort of look great. So I just prefer to do it that way, and I usually always prefer to do it with an accent on it, and that is my preferred way of doing it. So I'm going to pop them to one side and work on my front panel piece. So I'm going to need some zip tape. So I'm going to cut a piece that is a couple of inches longer than what I need, just so I can keep my my zip pull out of the way. And I'm just cinching those edges. Doesn't want to go on today. Sometimes I go on straight forward, and then other times don't think I've got that sitting quite straight. That might make a difference. There we go. I didn't have the pull sitting very straight, so it didn't want to go on. So what I'm going to do first of all is I'm going to mark all of my centres. I'm going to mark both top and bottom because I'm going to need the bottom marked as well when I come to put it all together. And the same with the top. Just putting in little nicks, just enough so that I can see it. And I'm going to mark my centres on my lining where I've got it written on, that is in heat erasable ink. So if my iron is still warm enough, that should get rid of that. So I did think about using the other fabric as my lining for this, but I literally had a square left that was big enough to cut that piece out. I was like, right, waste not, want not. Let's just use the same fabric. So let's use a little bit of double-sided tape just to make sure that this stays all nice and neat. So just a little bit of double-sided tape along the edge. You don't have to do double-sided tape if you don't want to. You can baste your zipper in place if you prefer. I have already pressed my zips before I started. Just give them a quick iron, and then I'm just going to match them centres up. Just going to move my trolley around. I'm wondering why I'm like twisting and turning. It's because my trolley's behind me, too far out of the way. Has anybody got any sewing plans for this weekend? Has anybody got any plans to make anything up this weekend? Okay, so I'm just going to change my foot just so that I've got my other zip foot on. So pleased I don't have the front camera on, because you'd see me sticking my tongue out in concentration. So I'm going to sew it from this side, and we need to sew this on with a 3/8 seam allowance if you're using a number 5 zipper. If you're using a number 3 zipper, you want to use a 3/4 inch seam allowance. Jilly's saying, I think I want to make this bag. I've printed the pattern off. It's one of my favourite, Jilly. I love it. Sophie's saying, I'm cutting out fusible interfacing for my clutch bag. Dana's saying, hopefully make another clean-up clutch with a few adjustments and work out costs and selling price. It'll probably be a faster sew you next time. Like with that first one's always really slow. So I'm just going to finger press this back. You can, obviously, because I'm using cotton on these pieces here, if you want to, you can use your iron. But can you see where I've used the Decovil, like out of the seam allowance? It's just naturally wanting to fold. It makes it so much easier to get that Decovil out of the seam allowance. So I'm going to top stitch. I'm going to come from this angle because of the foot that I've got on, just to try and make it easy for myself. Just make sure I'm keeping everything nice and straight. Can you use fusible fleece instead of Decovil? Absolutely, yeah. Just my preference is Decovil, that's all. But fusible fleece would work fine. It won't be as structured as the bag would be if you were using foam, but if you're using vinyl in that as well with the bag, I'm just making sure I've got no oil on my machine because I forgot to do it before I started sewing today. If you're using fusible fleece, it won't be quite as strong as as firm as using foam, but it will still work really well. So I'm just going to use a little bit of double-sided tape on the back of here. Just to keep it in place against the lining. If you ever struggle to get the back of the double-sided tape off, if you just use a pin to sort of separate the tape from the backing, it works great. Try not to stick it to your finger. And I'm just making sure that that is lined up straight. That my pocket is straight and it's not twisted. And then match the centres from my pocket lining to the top panel. Obviously it's the longer piece because you need it to create this shape, so it's the longer piece at the bottom. And then just doing exactly the same thing, 3/8 of an inch Susan, hopefully make up my, I think that's pronounced Moxema bag, once I've decided on stabilizers, plus cut out my Amora bag if I don't get too many interruptions. Just turn the lights off and pretend like you're not in. That's what I would do. So, going to top stitch this side, just in exactly the same way, except make sure I put my top stitching length on. And then we just want to double check that our pieces are the same. So I want to clip them at the top. And yeah, they are pretty much bang on. So if your size is slightly different, don't panic. It's probably just to do with the sort of seam allowance here. If you've used a different size zip, just trim it down. It will be fine. So you basically just want it to be the same size as your back panel. So let's change back to my other foot because I don't really like sewing with this one unless I'm putting zips in. Debbie says, hello, I've managed, oh, that's not on very tight. I've managed to catch your live, loving the fabric. Thank you. Make sure this is very well tightened up because they can work loose when you're sewing. More like turn my phone off. Daughter always wants to video chat when I'm about to sew. Yeah, Neve has a habit of doing that as well. But I cannot complain because I don't get to see her as much as I'd like. So I'm just going to baste this pocket in place. And then do the same on the other side, remembering to move my zip pull in. And I always just go over my zip a couple of times just to sort of make sure that it's secured. That's sitting a little bit funny. Just redo that bit. So don't want it to be sitting awkwardly when I'm sewing it all together. Okay, so just get my big scissors and trim these down. I'm just resealing that zip because I don't want it to fray. You can use a little bit of fray check as well if you prefer, just along the edge of that zip. So now what we need to do, Maureen says hi late again. Sophie's asking where I get my bag patterns from. They're all linked. Every video has the pattern that it relates to linked in the description. So we need one of each A and B for each panel. So I'll pop these to one side for now. We'll work on this side. So we basically need the panels to go together like this. So one way that you can match them up is to find the center of this piece, find the center of this piece, match the centers, and then they should line up. My preferred way to do it, and this is one of the reasons why I love this 3/4 ruler, is because the seam is 3/8, is I mark 3/8 of an inch on each side. And then what I'm going to do is bring this edge up. I mean, you can mark the other side as well if you like, so you can see it very clearly. Oh no, that's the wrong colour pen. I wanted my blue one. So you can mark the opposite side too. So basically you want those 2 points to meet, and you should have a little triangle where it overlaps, and then on this side your triangle will be on the other side. And then if you're wanting to mark your centers as well, so that you can you know, ease all of that in and make sure it all matches up, you can. But that is how I put mine on. And then in theory I should have a nice straight top part to my panel. So I'm going to do the same thing on the other side. I'm going to mark my 3/8, and I'll do the same on this side so you can kind of see what I'm doing. And then those two meet up, so that basically those edges meet. These two meet. So it's basically you want that crossover point to be where you've made those marks. Just turn that way. Turn that way, and then just put plenty clips in all the way down to keep it in place. And then that just will get sewn down at 3/8. So I'm just going to pin and mark my other one while I have the pens out. I might as well do it all at the same time. But this is one of the reasons why I love this ruler, with it being the 3/4 ruler. The halfway point where it's marked as halfway down the middle is 3/8 of an inch. And I don't know about anybody else, but I really struggle to like mark 3/8 of an inch with a normal ruler. So I love this one. So that's them all marked. And then obviously you just want to make sure that you're putting them on the right way. I mean, like I say, you can mark your centers and do it that way. I just find I don't always get it as accurate as I do doing it this way. That's not to say that it's always accurate. Like, it doesn't always turn out 100%, but usually I get it measured and a bit more accurate than when I mark my centers. So that's both pieces all clipped together. So with each one, I am just going to sew down at that 3/8 of an inch, like on all 4 seams. And when I'm sewing like this, I quite often chain stitch on, so I'm not sort of like wasting extra thread. When I come over that zip, I'm just back stitching for extra reinforcement. Make sure my zip's out of the way. Pauline saying, have I accidentally caught the live? Please tell me where you got your 3/4 ruler. I did check your website. Yeah, I don't have them on my website. I got it at a sewing show. I am going to try and get some in stock. This isn't one of the club lives though, Pauline. It's just one on my main channel. All the club ones are in your email or in the club group. This is just one that is out on the normal channel that you can just go and watch whenever. So what we need to do now is we need to top stitch. I'm going to top stitch on the side of my vinyl. Donna's saying, oh yes, ruler. I will get it sorted, I promise. It is on my enormous to-do list. So I'm basically going to push all of those seams towards this accent piece and top stitch through all of those layers and keeping them down. If you want to, you could butterfly them open, but you have to remember that if you're doing that, then you will be stitching over this part of your zip. So hence why I like to do it on my accent pieces. So I'm literally 1/8 of an inch away and on my top stitching length, if I remember to change it. And as I go down, I'm just making sure that those seams are tucked underneath towards the accent. Yeah, Maureen's saying for me too. I do have a 1/2 inch and an inch one, but a 3/4 would be good. Yeah, I love my 1/2 inch ones and I love my inch one, but that 3/4 one I use way more than, I mean, I bought it just because I wanted it. I didn't realise just how useful it was going to be and how much I do actually use it. Pauline says, thank you, total happy accident. So they are all top stitched down, and can you see, if I come in on, creased a little bit there, but that's fine. Can you see sort of how straight they are? I've got my little ears that need to come off, but can you see how well they've lined up? And I find that I only get it to line up as well when I mark my edges that way. If I try to do it by just like finding my centers and such, like, I don't ever get it quite as neat. Don't panic if yours is a little bit off, it's, you know, it's fine. You'll make it work in the zip. Maureen says, I missed the start. Can you please tell me what your fabric is? So this is cotton interfaced with woven interfacing and Decovil out of my seam allowances. I probably could have gotten away with a little bit of fusible fleece as well on my cotton, but it's working. And this is vinyl, and I also have Decovil out of my seam allowances on the vinyl instead of putting foam on like at this point. So if you were using foam, this is the point that you would baste your foam in. Paula says, hi Deb, finally made alive. Hi. I'm hoping Bruce is going to be better behaved today. Right. So shall I do my side connectors? Shall I do my strap connectors in the side like the pattern has? Oh, it doesn't show you because I've got the pouch version here. But yeah, obviously the pattern would be the strap connectors in the side, or shall I do them as hidden connectors? Obviously one on one side, one on the other. Let me know while I sort my connectors out. So I'm basically just going to start by putting the edges into the middle, long edges into the middle. Everyone's saying hidden, no problem. I've done hidden quite a few times with this bag and I do like it. Just got to remember where I place them. But we can fudge it. We can just work out where I want to place them. And right. So right, let's top stitch. Let's give it a bit of a roll first. I do like my roller. Sue says hidden, Pam says hidden. We shall go with hidden. You can get away when you're doing hidden connectors if you don't want to top stitch your strap connectors. You don't really have to because they are sort of encased in. I am going to just because I'm using really nice thread and I think it'll look funky. So I'm doing my connectors in one lot. So I think the strap connectors were like 5 inches long, something like that. I can't see my, oh no, 2.5. No, am I wrong? Anyway, but I'm doing mine much longer and in one piece. The reason I'm doing it in one piece is because then I only need to sew down each side sort of in one go and then I can cut it in half. The reason my piece is longer is because if I'm doing hidden connectors, I like to work with extra connector, and then if I don't need it, I can trim it back. But I have too much than too little. So let's work out where I would like my strap connector to be. I'm going to draw it on the back. Now, let me try and remember what my measurements were. So, did I come down? pen, pen, pen. So I think what I'm going to do is I'm going to come down by 1.5 inches, and where that 1.5 inches, where that corner meets my seam, I'm going to come in by 1/2 inch and mark along 1 inch. Yeah. Now I do have like a little template thing. Oh, that's 1 inch. I was thinking that's a very small inch. I do have a little template that I use, and it's purely, I've made it based off the video. So the measurements that I give in the video is how I make my template. But it's basically the video for the hidden connectors is in the description down below as well. Is your bottom is 1 inch, and then where the center is, you measure out so that is 3/4 of an inch. So it's basically 3/8 from that center mark, and then a diagonal line to connect them, and that is how you end up with that shape. So, and then we basically want the same thing replicated on the other side. So I'm going to line up my ruler is 1.5 inches. Where that meets my seam, mark 1/2 inch away. And then just place my little template. I mean, basically this is just a scrap of like laminated paper of where I've like laminated my patterns, and then I've had like a little bit of scrap left over that I've made that up from. So obviously they're both on the same side, but what will happen when the bag is constructed, one hidden connector will be on one side, one hidden connector will be on the other. So the strap will go from the front of the bag to the back of the bag. I hope that makes sense. And let me just get my craft knife, do it with my craft knife. It's been ages since I've done a hidden connector. So you don't want to, what have I done with my pen? There's my pen. You do not want to cut through this line here. You want to cut through this line, and this line. So what you're basically doing is creating a flap. There we go on that side. And then I'm going to do the same on this one. So I'm just making sure that my knife has gone up to the corners. I'm kind of lifting it off when I'm doing that, because what I don't want to do is like overshoot into the fabric, like into the main bag itself. So let's just get rid of this ink. And get our D-rings. And I like to find the centre of the strap connector and just make a mark just for reference. And then the strap gets fed in wrong side up till you just sort of can see that the colours look so weird on the camera. Like the colours look nothing like in real life what they look like on the camera, but hey ho. So yeah, so you want it to be sitting just where that mark is, and you want it to be sitting nice and straight. So I'm going to use a couple of clips to keep that in place so it doesn't move. I can move my mat out of the way now. And I like to do this part from the back, because what I'm going to do is I'm going to literally just sew along here where that 3/4 is. So I'm not going past this. So I'm literally just where this 3/4 top cut is I'm going to sew about 1/8 of an inch away, and I'm going to make sure that a back stitch, and I'm going to be using a construction stitch. You don't want it to be too small because you don't want sort of like too many sort of puncture holes, but you do want it to be a construction stitch. So hi Sabine. So I'll switch over onto the other camera. And can you see that there, where I have literally just stitched like that 3/4? I haven't gone any further over. So now I want to put my D-ring on and pop the other end in. Now what you don't want to be doing is you don't want to be pulling this so tight that the D-ring sits like this. You want it to be so that the D-ring sits nice and flat, but that it's sort of tight enough that it's nice and firm. It's not going anywhere, but that the D-ring sits nice and flat. You don't want to pull it so tight that this D-ring is sort of sitting and you're causing like ripples in the material. Hi Kathy. So then my next step is when I'm happy with that D-ring is I pop my fingers on it, I then lift it up and I place my fingers on that little flap that we created. I'm just going to pop a couple of clips in because I do need to change my foot over, because we need to get really nice and close to that D-ring, or as close as we possibly can. So just make sure that I'm happy with it still. and I want to sew as close to here as I can possibly get. So there we have one D-ring in. Now I'll do the other, exactly the same process. There we go, and I'm just going to put a rivet in as well, because I think it'll finish it off, and I do think it helps to keep those sort of strap connectors down. Obviously you can, and I will still be like taping them as well, but I am just going to God, I've chucked a few away there. Right, 1, 2, 1, 2, 1, 2. Right. So just put them through to the back. Oh, I've got a silver one out. Have I got a silver one out? I mean, it wouldn't have been the end of the world because it's on the back, but still, if we're going to do it. And then just get my press out. Just make sure that that's all tightened up, and set them in place. Oh, that's better. Didn't want to set there the first time. Sally's saying, I've never thought about putting in hidden connectors. Yeah, I've done it a couple of times on this bag and I've really liked how it's turned out. Obviously it means, like I say, one's sort of at the front, one's at the back, but it works absolutely perfectly well. It works really good. So let's just get a little bit of tape. Oh, and I haven't put it I haven't put a nameplate on yet either, have I? Oh, it's probably a bit excessive. So I'm just using a little bit of duct tape. And just put that behind there and protect that, the back of that snap. Not the snap, the rivet. Sally's saying this pattern is one of my favourites. Yeah, mine too. Like, I think it's pretty much everybody's favourite pattern. And that's why I might change the name of the video too. Everybody's favourite free pattern. Yeah. So where shall I put it up here? Or shall I put it down here? They are worth doing as they lift the bag to another level. They do. And like once you're used to doing them, they're not as hard or as difficult to do as what you sort of think that they are. Like, you know, once you find a technique that works for you, and there's loads of different techniques out there, that's just the one that I use for quickness. I've seen a one that I think Amy Butler's got on her channel, which is really good, where you use like an extra piece of fabric. You know, there's so many different ways of doing it. So, you know, once you find how like you like to do it, I'm just trying to find my center there, couldn't find my mark. You know, just do it how you like to do it, and then you'll be flying. I'm going to put it on. Ooh, I haven't used one of these washers before, so I'll have to see where the prongs are going at. I think this is the first time I've ever used one of my nameplates in rainbow, because I've not had these ones long. So I need to mark that one there and that one there. And I always just like to use a little bit of glue on the back of my hardware, just to give it a little bit of extra stick. Obviously, where I'm putting this hardware in, I'm making sure that I don't go through my pocket, which I have done before a couple of times. I'm not going to lie. That's well wonky. And then again, just use a bit of tape. And that's just to protect the fabric that's behind it from those prongs. Just what you don't want those prongs to wear through. Donna's turning up some trousers for her husband. First time doing them because a mum's shown her before. I'm sure you'll be absolutely fine, Donna. And if he doesn't like it, he can turn them up, and he can do it the next time. I just use Wonderweb, I'm not going to lie. So, zip. I want to double check my measurements. Let me just find the page for the measurements. I think we've done all of our lining. So we've got a 3/8 seam allowance, so we need to leave a little bit extra for sort of for the zip and everything to sit right. So before I work out how much I want to cut my zip to exactly, what I'm going to do is, so if we're on 3/8, let's do 5/8 because I like to add on an extra 1/4 of an inch. I know some people like to add on an extra 1/8. I like to add on an extra 1/4. So 3/8 and a 1/4 is 5/8. So I'm literally just marking along on both sides 5/8 of an inch. And I'm going to prep my zip by finding my lighter first. And I'm going to put my zip pull on now, because the amount of times I do this, prep all my zip, put my zip tab on, and I'm like, got no zip pull on. And like, yeah, I've done it I've done it so many times. It's a bit wonky. That's a bit wonky too. You can tell I'm not used to working in rainbow hardware because I'm not used to this reflectiveness coming at me from the other side of the zip pull. That will do. It's not quite straight, but it is fine because we are going to turn this end. So I want it to lie nice and flat, and what I'm going to do is use my 1 inch ruler, and what I like to do is I like to line up the edge of the ruler with the edge of the tape so that I know that it is straight, and pull that straight and mark on the other side. And then again, I've got a video for this in my back catalogue. I am just turning that zip. I like to live life dangerously and use my lighter to keep mine in place. So I will, sometimes you can use a pin to keep it in place. Obviously you can stitch it down if you like. I just cut mine. And then just kind of like melt the edges of the zip together. But obviously if you're doing it that way, please be very careful of your fingers. Do not burn your fingers. Do it slowly. And I want to make sure that that fold is nice and tight up against the teeth of my zip. Hazel saying, hello, didn't know that you were live today. Yeah, I'm doing an extra one. I think probably from next month I'm probably going to do one a week. I kind of wanted to get into a flow of doing lives. It is quite daunting sewing live on the internet, especially when things go pear-shaped. So yeah, I've been kind of doing 2 a week to just kind of get myself in the flow. But I think from next month I probably will do 1 a week with an occasional extra one possibly. And I'm thinking possibly a Thursday, but we shall see. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to figure out how long I need my zip to be by offering it up to that first line and then measuring it along to that second line and just making a mark where that is and trimming it off. Hence why I put my zip pull on, because the amount of times that you say I do this bit and I go to put my zip tab on and I have no zip pull on my zip, and I have a beautifully prepared zip. It's all gone perfectly well, but no zip pull on it. So I've just got my halfway mark on my zip tab marked and then some double-sided tape, and I'm just going to put the zip, the short, like where I've just cut and seared, and then just use a couple of clips to keep it in place, and then I will just top stitch that down. Sue says you seem so natural on the lives. I'm absolutely crapping myself. My face is probably bright red because I do go like really red when I get sort of a little bit stressed and nervous. But yeah, but the more I do, I'll be fine. The more I do, I'll be absolutely fine. So this is just top stitching at my top stitching length, trying to keep it as neat as I can. And then we can start to put the bag together. Exciting, exciting. So I have my centre marked. So just going to use a bit of double-sided tape just in between where those marks are. And that will help keep the tape in place. Just want to make sure that I've got it all nice and straight and I'm happy with it. And then I'm going to sandwich my lining piece. If you want to use more double-sided tape to keep them in place, then that's absolutely fine. I'm just going to pop a few clips in. Put my wrong clips in my wrong pot. And then once you're happy with that, those two get sewn together 3/8 of an inch again. I'm probably going to take it just slightly under 3/8 because I don't want it really close to that zipper teeth. I don't want to be having any difficulty opening and closing the bag, so I'm probably going to take it just ever so slightly underneath 3/8. And now I'm just going to move my zip along. Just keep that in there because I'll need them in a second. And so, top stitching. I might be a little bit controversial here. I don't top stitch my lining down to the body of my bag. If you want to do that, that's absolutely fine. What I find is if I top stitch this part down, I get funky corners and I don't like it. If you want to top stitch your lining down so that you've got your line of top stitching on this side, what I would suggest that you do is you start and finish your top stitching where your zip is, so that when you come to put your bag together, these seams sit flat and you aren't hindered by any extra top stitching. But I am going to do my preferred way, which is to keep my lining out of my top stitching altogether, and yeah, keep it this way, and then I'm going to top stitch. I'm going to change my foot over actually, or shall I do it? No, I'll just top stitch from this way. I'm going to top stitch 1/8 of an inch away. My seams are facing this way, but my lining is facing the other way. I never have any issues with my lining catching in on my zip, as long as I make sure that my lining is smaller than my bag by either adjusting it. I have a video in my description box down below, or by taking my seam allowances bigger, and I never have any problems with it. So when I'm doing bags like this, this is my preferred way of top stitching and keeping the lining out of my top stitching. Now, obviously, because we've used vinyl, our seams might be a little bit bulky at parts. So when I get to this part here, I'm just going to pop my hump jumper underneath. just to try and help that. And then just while I'm sewing, I'm just going to use a couple of clips just to keep that lining out of the way while I'm attaching the other side. So again, some double-sided tape. Right, zip has caught. Let's So I'm just making sure that that zip is lined up in between those two marks. Try not to get myself too caught up in all of the double-sided tape. And just where I feel it needs readjusting, I just do that and make sure it's well stuck down. And then my second lining piece. So I always like my zipper pocket to be at the back, hence why it goes on second. But it's up to you kind of which way around you put them, on. So exactly the same. I'm just going to stitch this down at just, as I say, just under 3/8, like a smidge under 3/8. And then I'll top stitch exactly the same way as I did before. I'm just trying to make sure I keep my zip out of the way as much as possible. And then just as I'm coming along, I'm just making sure that those seams are tucked under and facing into like the exterior of the bag. So I always try and have this zip in the middle because it just kind of makes things a little bit easier at this stage. I want to make sure that my zip is pretty much either a half open or 2/3 open for the interior, because the amount of times where I've gone to turn a bag through and I can't because I haven't left my zip open. So now basically going to sew the exterior and the interior together, and I always do sort of my exterior together and then my interior together because I always want my start and stop stitching to be at this point, because I want I don't want these seams to move, and I sometimes find that if I start my stitching here and then work it all the way down, it can shift. So what I do is I'm matching these seams up here, and I'm just putting a staple in. I'm going to match these bottom seams up as well and pop a staple in, and do the same on this side. And then, you know, if I need to, I can just kind of put clips in the rest of the way. Probably only need a few. So what I'm going to do is that just a normal stapler. No, it's slightly different. I've just got it on Amazon. It kind of, it has like a bit of a different, but it is just like a normal stapler. It's just shaped slightly differently. So I'm going to start here, stitch to here, come along the bottom, and then stitch to the top here, and then I'm going to stop. And it's at, oh, that staple's totally in my stitch line. So if I just put another one there and then take that one out, let's just leave that out in case I've done the same anywhere else. So yeah, so I want 3/8 of an inch stitch seam allowance. So I want to be quite precise, so I'm going to use my seam guide. And then I'm going to flip it over so that I'm starting my seam coming the same way. I knew I'd had my coming the same way and keeping those two seams at the top together. Amanda saying, sorry late, didn't know there was a live today. think I kind of only tend to schedule them sort of like the day before, but I usually do put up as an event in the group, and then you can always see, if you go on like the home page, there's like an upcoming lives sort of bit. You can see there what I've got coming up. But I think as well, if you hit the little notification bell, if you click all, it'll kind of notify you. I think either if I've got something scheduled or if I've gone live, you'll get a little sort of like ping. And then obviously if you're busy or you're not interested, you can just ignore it. So I'm going to do exactly the same, but the opposite way around. And I'm starting at this point and coming down. And the reason, like I say, is because I don't want these points here shifting. I want them to stay the same. So I have adjusted my pattern slightly because I've used this pattern so many times, and I've just used the method that's in the can I put my stapler on my Amazon list? Absolutely. If it's not already there, I shall add it, no problem. I shall do it straight after this. But yeah, my lining I have already adjusted to make it smaller, per my instructions in the videos actually linked in the description box. But if you haven't made your lining smaller and you've cut it the same size, then increase your seam allowance from the 3/8 of an inch at the top here, and increase it up to around about 5/8 of an inch. But I have already adjusted mine and made mine smaller. So just making sure that my zip is definitely open. So I'm going to box these corners now, and I'm going to do that before I trim down these seam allowances, because I find it easier to do this seam here with the full seam than with a trimmed down seam. And see if the staple holds. Rather than putting clips in, I'm just actually going to staple like all the way along. So I'm wanting to match up those seams in the middle. Oh, that one doesn't seem to want to be staying where it is. I'm just going to backstitch. My backstitching mustn't have quite caught. And that remover thingy, absolutely no problem. If I bought something that I absolutely love on Amazon, I do usually add it in, but I must have forgotten to do it, so apologies. I will go on and do it like as soon as I come off. Well, I might have a cup of tea first, if Andy's back anyway. It might not be, because we're not doing too bad for time today, am I? So this seam is going to get sewn at 3/8 of an inch. And then so is the other one. And I just find, especially like on the box corners and stuff, and when you're using Decovil, you know, you're using quite a bit of stabilizer. Just putting staples in instead of clips just makes it so much easier. I mean, if you're really like good with your scissors, you could probably just cut the staples out, you know, like when you're trimming your seam allowance down. I'm not. Like, we all know how accident prone I am, so the likelihood of me cutting through a staple, you know, it pinging, it, you know, at best breaking my scissors, at worst pinging somewhere I don't want it to ping. Oh, sorry, just chucked my ruler on the floor. So I do always take mine out before I trim back, but I know lots of people just cut their staples out. It's just, for me, it's a personal preference not to, because of my level of accident proneness. So I am going to trim down the rest of my seams. Obviously, where I have done the boxing of the corners, those seams are still full. Like I say, I just find it easier to do the box corners with a full seam. I find trying to manipulate like the smaller seams just really difficult. So I prefer to do it with a bigger seam and then just trim down. It might be a little bit more of a faff, but it's a faff I'm willing to do. And I'm just going to leave this seam full for when I come to do the lining, because I'm going to do the double birth method. Like I say, and I sort of like trim down as far as I can with my big scissors, and then I just come in with my little ones and trim down any extra. My floor so needs cleaning. Jilly says, lots of top tips in this live. Thank you. Oh, you're very welcome. I'm pleased that you're finding it helpful. Definitely going to make one this weekend. Oh, I'd love to see it. If you're in, I don't know if you're in the main Facebook group, but if you are, please join. And if you're not, please join and share. And if you are, then please share. So I'm going to do the double birth method. So I'm going to pull the bag through at this point, because it makes it so much easier. Sue's waiting for me to swear. Donna's saying, how do you get your list? I'm sure it's linked in my description box down below. It should be, because it's linked. It's just an automatic default on all of my listings. It should be something along the lines of like all my favorite things or something like that. So I'm just pushing that out. Obviously this is Decovil, so you know you're likely to get some creasing. I still have to use the hairdryer method. I have to find my other hairdryer because I only have my diffuser one, with me having curly hair. So on the side where my zip tab is, I want to find that seam, and I want to open it out as much as possible, get my thumb inside of it and push it out. Why is trimming down a seam allowance necessary? Basically for sort of this reason, so that I can get a really nice crisp edge. If I had all of that bulk still in that seam, I wouldn't be able to get that pushed out as nicely. And then I'm going to do exactly the same on this one. So I'm basically, hopefully you can kind of see, I'm opening out that seam, pushing my finger flat into it and pushing. And so I'm basically making sure that that seam is sitting nice and flat and it's not bunched up anywhere. So yeah, so I'm loving how this is coming together. I'm going to roll my bottom corners out. So double birth method, obviously we've got the bag birthed, so I'm going to pull this lining through my pocket, and it is a little bit interesting to do on a bag that's a little bit smaller like this, but it's not totally impossible. So this is the bottom seam that I'm working on, so I'm just matching up those edges, matching up my centers, which is why I always have my centers clipped. And just flick that one away because I don't want that one. Honestly, after I come off, like, well, even if I'm not sewing live, if I'm just sewing like for, you know, fun, which I don't do very often now, when I'm finished, I've got to go around and pick up all of the clips. They're just everywhere. Donna says I've got a heat gun. Would that be too hot? Probably. You would just want your hair dry on it, like on the lowest, like warm setting. But my hair dryer is like that, like, because it's a big diffuser, and it's like it's not an attachment diffuser. It's like the whole hair dryer is a diffuser. Because I have wild curly hair now that I never used to have. I'm going to have a drink of lemonade, not of anything alcoholic. I think I should just point that out. Just for anybody joining me first time, be like, oh, is it that type of life? So trim those seams back, and then we do our corners. So we're basically just doing the last part of our lining, but from sort of the opposite way. So we're doing it from like inside the pocket, and it basically, like, look at how easy that bag was to birth, like so easy. You know, you don't get as many wrinkles. I'm going to clip this one while I'm on. And you know, you don't get as many, you don't have to have that sort of like visible stitching line like inside your bag, because we're going to close it up from the zip. So it's very clever. My flips, Hazel says, my clips fly across the room. I have one of those telescopic magnets on the stick. Yeah, I could probably, there's probably one in the garage, if I'm completely honest. Andy's probably bought one at some point, and there's probably one in the garage. I'd hate to actually think where in the garage. If I could find it, it's probably easy just to buy another one. But like, I keep thinking I should get one of those like grabbers as well. Like Andy's dad's got one, you know, like what litter pickers and that use as well, for like picking up things, and it saves you back. But like the amount of things that like I drop, and I'm like, one of those grabber things would be like really handy, and like wouldn't be like bend, because I'll bend over to get something from underneath me sewing table on my desk, and inevitably as I stand back up again, I'll crack my head on something, because like I say, I'm so I literally am so accident prone. Like I can trip over my own feet. Like I am so bad. I wasn't like particularly accident prone as a kid. Like you know, probably had the normal level of accidents as a bairn, but as I've got older, oh, I'm so bad. I mean, my balance isn't the best. I definitely take after my mum for that, and then obviously, like after that period with the very heavy migraines for that sustained period of time, it has left me with a few sort of dizzy issues. Like I can't turn my head particularly quickly. I've got to be careful. You know, like the idea of like going on a waltz or anything now, I'm like, oh, absolutely not. I'm just going to use my smaller scissors to get in here. But yeah, I'm definitely more accident prone as I'm getting older. Paula says, I use my grabber all the time for the clips. I'm like you, Paula, for my clips. Donna says, I need to get one of them, Hazel. I struggle to pick up off the floor without falling over. Oh, that's, as I say, that's absolutely me. Oh, Maureen says that she has a grabber that is also a magnet. Right. Guess who's going to be on Amazon afterwards trying to find one of them. Right, so I'm just making sure that I'm happy with my lining. Hopefully you can kind of see like how well my lining is sitting down inside of my bag. Like I'm not having any difficulty with, you know, my lining popping up. Hazel saying, my grabber broke and I really need a replacement. Yeah, I think I just actually need to get a grabber. Maureen saying her sister got it for her, so she doesn't know, but she'll ask her. We'll remind you, don't worry, Maureen. We'll just keep saying, did you ask your sister? Did you ask your sister? So I'm literally just going to close up this pocket, but I'm going to put my other foot on because I don't like sewing with this one on, if I can help it. Not when I'm sewing very, very close to a seam. I have just ordered like a normal foot, but it's like a skinny foot, to see how I get on with that. I don't have to keep changing over. But yeah, we shall see. Bruce is going to be ecstatic because I'm going to be finished right on time for feed time. He was not a happy bunny on Tuesday. Hazel saying the skinny foot feels weird. Yeah, I'm going to see how I get on with it. Like, I am one of them people that like kind of like what I like, but when I first got the zipper foot, like I've had these zipper feet for ages, never ever used them, and now I don't use anything else. So I think, well, if I get them and see, like, sort of see how they go, and yeah, if I don't like it, I don't like it. Like, give it a try. But yeah, it is what it is, isn't it? Like, if they weren't drastically expensive, I think it was about 12 quid. So, you know, ideally I'd like them to work, but you know, if I don't like them, it's not the end of the world. So there we go. 2 seconds. I'm gonna change onto this one. So yeah, I'm loving it. I absolutely love it. Hazel saying it is good. I'm just used to the normal. Yeah, I think I might be all right with it because I'm so used to sewing on with the skinny foot now. Look at how red and blotchy my face is. like with the zipper foot. But yeah, hopefully it will stop us having to change it over all of the time. So yeah, but I am really pleased with how this has come out. Just hit myself in the face with it. If you can see, try and come in so you can see the hidden connectors on that side and then on that side. But it does work well, and actually it sits nicely. I sometimes find with those bags where you have the connectors in the side, sometimes they don't always sit properly, especially if you're like me and you put too much stuff in your bag. So I like having the connector, one at the front, one at the back, because it actually, when you've got it on your hip, it sits really nicely, and it doesn't get in the way. If I kind of need to make it a little bit longer, I don't want to make it too long because you need to be able to see. But if I kind of pop it on, they don't get in the way, because the back one is against your body and the front one is in front of your body, so it actually works really, really well. Oh, Jill's saying that's lovely. Maureen's saying beautiful. Thank you. Sabine's saying so pretty. Donna's saying she likes her narrow foot. And can use it as a zipper foot. And Pam says gorgeous. I love it. Me too. And I don't like pink. Like, pink is not my bag. Purple is, green is, but pink isn't. But actually I really do like this. I'm probably going to send a picture to Neve and ask her if she wants it before I put it up for grabs for anybody else, because Neve loves pink. And this material is actually what was left over of what I bought. Like this material, I bought some material from her for her to make an Estrella, and there was some left, so I was like, oh, there'll be enough in that. And then I thought it went really well with this fabric, which I think is a Fabric Heaven fabric, if I'm not mistaken. Pauline says I've got 2 new grabbers for coming out of hospital with my new hip day. The ones with the wee magnet is great. I think we're all going to be going on and having a look for grabbers with magnets on now. Sabine says absolutely my colours. Yeah. And rainbow hardware, I'm not normally one for rainbow hardware, and I was going to use silver, but then I was like, possibly rainbow. And yeah, I think it's worked really well. And I think this might be the first, maybe it's the second time that I've used my nameplate in the rainbow, because I haven't had them long. Anything I would change with using cotton in the middle, I possibly, as well as the Decovil, possibly might have used a layer of fusible fleece, just to marry it up to the weight of the vinyl. It's nice, but we all know how OTT I can be sometimes, and I just like, I like to learn with each bag. So I think if I was doing it a lot of the time when I make this bag, I'll make this panel with like a wool, or I've made it quite a lot of the time just in all vinyl. It's a long time actually since I've made it with just cotton in the middle. So I think if I was going to make it again, I would use the Decovil the way that I have, but then I think I would put a layer of fusible fleece on as well, just to give it that little bit of squidginess, but it not to be foam, because I think in a bag this size, I think sometimes foam can be a little bit too much. Hazel saying, considering I'm not a fan of this pattern, I do like this. The connectors are a really good idea. I much preferred. I'm not overly keen on the connectors when they come out of the side of the bag. Although when I did the Harley and they were put on at the angle, much preferred them. I was like, oh, I like how they're angled and they're not straight out. So I think if I'm ever doing a pattern and that is the way that they're inserted and I'm going to do them that way, I'll angle them the way that Leanne has it on the Harley bag, if it's not written as part of the pattern that I'm doing, and do it that way, because I did actually much prefer like when they're sat sort of up a little bit as opposed to just out. I thought that worked a heck of a lot better. But yeah, I am loving this. Considering I am not a pink person, I'm not a girly girl at all, I am very, very pleased with it. So thank you very much everybody for joining me for today's and Tuesdays, if you're here on Tuesday as well. I probably will do a bit of a roundup on Monday night where I'm doing kind of vlogs, but in a live format instead of filming them, editing them, putting them up. And then, like I said, I probably will do like once a week rather than twice a week. Sue's saying, so we'll have to catch up with what I've missed. Nodded off just as you were putting in the top zip. Treatment's making me sleepy. That's fine. I quite often go to sleep like with YouTube playing in the background, and if it's not something weird like serial killers, it's usually Kasaya or Lauren or somebody sewing bags that I'm going to sleep on with. So I'm not offended, Sue, don't worry. Sue says it's the same as the Percy strap connectors, put the angle at the sides. Yeah, I think that just works like loads better. And I still am very, very tempted to get Leanne's new pattern, but it will have to wait until the 15th. I am on a strict no patterns ban until the 15th. I did have to buy fabric the other day though. I know I'm on a ban for no fabric, but I didn't have any purple vinyl, and I needed some purple vinyl to do the passion flower, which I'm going to do beginning of next month, either be the first or the second week, I'm not sure. But I'm doing that with the fabric out of the bag makers box, and it had to be purple, and I didn't have any, so but I only bought 1/2 meter and I just got it out. So but I'll chat with everybody on Monday about what my plans are for next month and kind of show you some sneaky peeks. I've got my Mr. Heckles cut out for the club sew along. Prizes for guessing, it's green. Sally says I'm going to be doing the hidden connectors on my next bag. It looks fantastic. I'd say it looks harder than what it actually is, but obviously if I know I didn't go into massive detail in there because I'm trying to keep the videos not too long, but there is a separate video where you can really go in and you know, really sort of like show you very closely how to do it. Sophie says, thank you for a lovely live stream, Debs. You're welcome. And Sue saying, have a good evening and weekend. I absolutely will. I don't even know what I'm going to do with myself tonight, because I think I've had something on every single night, and I'm not going out tonight. Andy's going to come in from work and he's not going to have anything. I'm not going to be saying to him, can you do this? Can you? I'm normally like, I'm running behind. Can you go and do this for me? So yes, I just think a quiet night, something nice for tea, sit and watch the TV for a bit. What's a bit? And I end up in here cutting out patterns because I'm bored. I don't do sitting doing nothing very well at all. But we'll see. But yeah, but I will catch up. Go and get yourself a movie night snuggled up on the sofa with Andy. Yeah, I think we're pretty much completed Netflix and Amazon. We'll have to try and find something, but I'm sure we'll find something. Or Andy will probably come in here and help me cut out patterns. One of the two. But I will catch everybody on Monday if you want to join me, and I'll kind of go through what I've been sewing, what my plans are. And for those of you in the club, I'll see you tomorrow morning for our catch up, and I will see you then. Like I say, thank you everybody for joining me. I'll go and have a look for those staplers and removers, and I'll add them into my Amazon list, which, as I say, I'm pretty sure is in my description. It might be a little bit further down, but I'm sure it is in my description. So enjoy your evening, everybody. Have a nice weekend, and I will see you soon. Bye.